Hello.
It's time traveling time.
God, we're live. We're live. Please. Hello. This is the unedited show. What does We Like Shooting say?
Hello,
Internet.
Internet.
Head to the podcast. Hello, Internet. We are here. The Handgun Radio crew is here.
Is anyone listening?
Is anybody listening? We have 0 viewers right now. Weird.
But if people watch this video tomorrow, like on my blog or something, they'll be able to hear us be pathetic.
Right. Well, it says one is waiting. One is waiting. So there might be somebody watching right now. Okay, we have one viewer. Hello, viewer. How are you doing? We love you for listening to the show.
Why don't we have here we go. Chat room or anything?
The chat room, yeah. If you just go to the link here, I will put this in the show notes, Weird, and you can see the chat right on the side of the show. Just make sure you pause the show so it doesn't play.
Okay, I'll pause the show.
People talk. Well, yeah, you should be able to see it.
All right, let's see.
Can you see it on the right-hand side?
I see the live chat, yes.
Okay, there we go. All right, so we're good. Yeah, people talk to us all the time. So here we go. Okay. Hello and welcome to Handgun Radio. I'm your host, Ryan Machette from the wild woods of Central Maine, and this is your home for all the news, information, and discussion in the handgunning world. This week, we talk about some challenges as well as some solutions when you decide to disassemble your handgun. So as always, Handgun Radio is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network, and please check out the Patriot Patch Company for their awesome patches and other high-quality items. Visit patriotpatch.co for more information. And as always, you can shop Amazon using our affiliate link, firearmsradio.tv/Amazon. And Weird, if you wanted to help support Handgun Radio, how would you do it?
Plastics. I don't know. Supposedly it's a good line from that The Graduate movie, and I didn't really like it.
But Marathon Man's the better early Dustin Hoffman movie. You really shouldn't be watching The Graduate.
That's true. That is true. I would go to firearmsradio.tv/pledge and click on HGR.
And there are a bunch of different pledge levels over there. We really appreciate it if you'd consider supporting the show. So, Weird, what did you do this week?
My daughter had her 4th birthday party today. And so the trick is not to shoot yourself with any guns. No, I didn't. No, we had like 30 people at my house.
30 people?
Yeah.
30?
Some of them small children.
Oh, no.
It was awesome, actually. Yeah.
How did you keep them off the multiple floors?
I didn't, actually. As a matter of fact, there was like lots of little kids up on the balcony. Can we go up on the balcony? Yes, let's go up on the balcony.
Giving them tours up into the balcony.
And I'd go up and look down at their parents down in the backyard and go, we're going to do base jumping.
So,
by the way, for more handgun related business on that. Meanwhile, while this is all going on, my nephew is thinking about buying a 1911 and asking me about 1911s.
Oh, well, that's nice.
He's like, is Kimbers the one you say to avoid? I'm like, yes, avoid Kimbers.
Yes.
Yeah. But I said, I mean, he's a young guy. And so he doesn't have a ton of money on him. And I'm like, yeah, look into like the Rock Island. Cause again, I've heard some bad things like a long, long time ago. And I don't even trust that information, but now I would imagine somebody would be coming forward going, oh man, I got this Rock Island and it's garbage.
Rock Island has, from everything I've heard from everybody that I know that's bought one, they've been extremely happy with it.
I mean, that's the big thing with technology. It's one of those, like, when someone develops something new, you got to do it right. And so like I've got my Smith & Wesson 1911s. They are filled to the brim with metal injection molding parts. And a lot of people are like, oh, don't put any MIM in your gun. Well, yeah, but if you do it right, it's awesome. And Smith & Wesson knows how to do MIM. And Smith & Wesson MIM parts are as good as forged parts. Maybe not quite, but I don't know. And then you've got stuff like the Rock Island guns. Those are all done with investment casting, and Ruger does a lot of investment casting, and those guys have investment casting right. There are people that do terrible castings and those don't work out well, but when you do it right, it's awesome.
So myself, I cleaned my black powder revolver finally. I was able to go out and shoot it. Weird. How's your black powder revolver?
Still in pieces. I just have just no desire. Like that gun broke my spirit.
I, I took I took it apart before we moved from the apartment to the house,
Well, that's not a good
and
idea.
well, no, I when I took it apart, I separated all the screws into bags and labeled them and everything.
Okay, that's
But
smart. You're smarter
I
than me.
did I did forget about how to put it back together slightly. So it took me a little bit of finagling, and there's actually a live video on the Handgun Radio Facebook page you can go check out where if you want to watch me struggle with it because
I don't want to
yeah,
watch that.
it's pretty funny because I'm standing there, I'm like, wow, this is great. Like everybody's gonna be like, why the hell would Ryan even let him do this? Like let himself do this on live video where he
Now
doesn't
you
know
could
what he's
sell
doing.
me if while it took you a half hour to put a black powder revolver back together, you also had a horrible case of gas. That'd be pretty hilarious. Man, which way? I forget which way does this one go?
But I did take it out and I shot it. It shot well. I also shot a 50 caliber inline muzzle loader, which there should be some video posting on the page this week. I did
What
take some
was the
video.
what was the load you were shooting? What bullet? How much powder?
Traditions muzzle loader with a 50 caliber bullet. I don't know the grain weight. With two of the Pyrodex pellets.
Okay.
Someone else loaded it for me with a 209 shotgun primer, and it backs up pretty good.
Yeah, that's what you said. I was curious because I've shot some fairly heavy black powder loads. I mean, not I don't you know I don't I'm not an enthusiast, so I don't know how down the rabbit hole went, but I was always surprised with. I know I was shooting one where I was shooting. It was a 50 caliber, and I was using a saboted 45 in it, and it was like like a 250 some grain 45 caliber bullet. And it was pushing it out there a lot faster than I thought you could do with black powder. And I'm like, okay, this one's going to come back at me, but it's one of those like, no, not too bad. It was, I mean, you could feel the power behind it, but again, it was more of with the slow burn time. It was more of a shove. So
it is loud. That's the one thing I noticed. It's not like a sharp crack like with smokeless powder. It's more of just like a boom, like a real throaty boom.
Yep, that's why you put a Maxim 50 on the end of it.
So I also had some time before the show tonight, and I organized and cleaned my reloading / gunsmithing quote unquote area.
I
sent you a picture. What do you think?
I am embarrassed at how awful my armory looks.
Well, how does mine look? I don't care about yours.
Yours looks
I know
good.
I know how yours looks.
Clean. It's organized. Here, let me pull the picture back up so I can look a little closer at it because now I'm doing it for business instead of just going, oh God, I really need
yours is like Bruce Springsteen's gonna write a song about yours, just like just ruined engines and people with spirits broken and souls on the New Jersey night.
That hurts. That hurts. No, you got a lot. It's nice and clean. It's nice and organized. You done good. You done good.
Oh well, we'll see how it lasts.
Yeah, you're gonna have another kid. That's gonna be over, or it's gonna be fine, and I'm still gonna be in this dump. And though to be fair, it's a functional dump.
Okay, well, to the left of the picture, you can't, it's actually out of frame, but I have another bench where I'm going to have like a vise. And as time goes on, I'll try to build up my like gunsmithing supplies. So I'll have, punch sets, armorers kits, armorers blocks rather, other stuff we're going to talk about as well. And then I have another.
I thought you were going to say you can't see it in the picture to the right, but there's a bathtub full of dead hookers.
No, not yet. But I have cabinets over to the
they're still
left.
Alive?
I have cabinet over to the left that someone gave me so I can store some stuff in there as well. So now that I have a little bit more room, I can build up the tools and everything that I have. Because before I never really thought about, buying anything else because I didn't really have the space for it. So
you're getting a nice end mill so you can make 80% lowers.
I would like to get a nice drill press and end mill and stuff. But weird. What's your drink segment?
So my drink segment, this is a new drink. I just on a whim decided to give this a try. It is based off of a drink I made with green chartreuse. And so I'll let you know where the substitution can be made. And I really like it. Actually, I like it a lot more than the chartreuse version. It's a martini variant. You start out with 3 ounces of gin, 1 ounce of the aforementioned Galliano, and a half ounce of Lillet Blanc. You can substitute green chartreuse for the Galliano. And again, both of them are vaguely licoricey, herbal, very sweet liqueurs. And but I found that the Galliano is a lot softer than the chartreuse, and it really goes well. And Lillet Blanc is essentially a white wine, and so it's the color of a white wine. It's kind of that yellowish color. Galliano is a bright yellow. I think it's got saffron in it, and so it's like a really nice sunny yellow color, and it tastes pretty darn good. So yeah, and I use a preserved lemon. I cut up some preserved lemon and use that as the garnish.
So that was what you were like chewing on before we started the show, and I was like, "What are you eating?"
Well, I turned to, we weren't recording. I turned away from the mic when I just had another piece as you were talking. So yeah.
At least I didn't hear it this time.
Yeah. You want me to chew on I got one more piece left in there. You want me to chew right in the mic? I'll do it. No.
Yeah. We'll use that as the buffer music.
Crunch, crunch, slosh, slosh, mouth noises.
So I actually added, before we head into the main topic, we had 3 listener emails come in since last show. And I thought they were actually
listener emails.
They were very interesting. So everybody, please send your listener emails to handgunradio@gmail.com. We love reading them. We love getting them. We have 3 really good ones here. One of them is Weird's specialty. So the first one's from David. This is a Dream Gun entry. Hey guys, thanks for the great podcast. Kept meaning to send in my Dream Gun, but I never have the time. So here we go. It's a start with a 1908 Colt pocket hammerless, chambered in 9x19, so 9mm. Use an alloy frame to keep the weight down, but strong enough for the increased pressure. Thicken the grip and slide just enough to get 12 rounds in. Change the sights to something low profile but useful. Fiber optic or night sights would be sweet. And lastly, make the grip fit the hand just like a CZ75, but thinner.
My only question on that is, all right, start with a 1908 Colt, which is blowback, chambered in 9x19, which, I mean, in theory, you could put a gigantic recoil spring on it and make it work, but I
wonder if you could make it just like a little bit upsized, like just enough that you need to have a link, the dropping link, the tilting link system.
Yeah, you could probably use a tilting link or a Browning linkless system.
I mean, realistically, if you enlarged it just enough to accommodate that, it still wouldn't be that large.
No.
And the 1903 and the 1908 do have a really good snag-free profile for like a fairly thin pistol.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go way back to when we were actually doing this show that spawned all these great emails. I'm going to, just for David, I'm going to be making your 1908 pocket hammerless in 9x19. I'm going to make it roller lock delayed.
Oh, there you go.
It's underutilized. I think it's cool.
So this one is for you, Weird, and this one I had no input on, so I figured, well, this will be one for you. This is from listener Matt Moisen. Wow.
I think it might be. I don't know. I don't know how the Russian pronunciation of it is, but go ahead.
Anyway, listening to episode 181, you got me wondering about adding a scope to one of my Mosins. What is the thoughts on drop-in triggers and adding a scope? I can't really decide from tapping above the bore or mounting to the rear sight. What's your thoughts? Also, Weird. I love mint juleps made with homemade bourbon. Best recipe is with Evan Williams mint julep mix, a good splash of bourbon, crushed or shaved ice, a little ginger beer, and some fresh mint leaf.
Ginger beer and a mint julep.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay. And a mint julep mix or mint Julio.
Weird. You got to try it.
I'll have to look it up. I'll have to look it up. As for adding scopes and drop-in triggers to a Mosin, I gotta say, why would you do that? I mean, so first up, like if you're going to be doing some of the drop-in triggers, all right, you can you can drop in a trigger and you can still convert the gun back. I mean, since I've got a CNR, I haven't looked into the law too deep enough to know, but I've heard a lot of people say don't modify your CNR guns in such a way that you can't modify them back to their original configuration. Again, I'm just going off of what I've heard. I haven't looked up the law, but also the fact that I'm a collector, I kind of want the gun. You know, if I get a Mosin Nagant, I kind of want it how someone was carrying it around in the Eastern Bloc, not some sort of upgraded. But again, you know, maybe this was, you know, something in like, you know, back in the 50s when there were really good hunting rifles, and then you could buy military surplus stuff for cheap, and the supply was unlimited. I mean, Mosin Nagants, I think they pretty much dried up now. Like, you don't see much in the wholesalers anymore. So it's not like they're getting crates of Mosins from Russia or other Eastern Bloc countries anymore. So the value of them is only going up. If you end up like drilling and tapping one, you're going to be damaging the value of the gun. And then, you know, once you get to the cost of, you know, putting scope rings on, putting a scope on and all that, why not just buy a Savage? Like, they make really good, from all I've heard, I don't own one, but they make really good bolt action rifles that are fairly inexpensive and are fine. And they're set up for all of that.
But let's just say that you have, okay, so let's say maybe he just has a Mosin that he's done whatever, doesn't care about it or whatever, wants to buy one of these aftermarket scope solutions to put a scope on the gun. If you had to pick, let's just say you wanted to do that. I know you're a collector of Mosins, so that's probably completely out of what you would want to do. What would be your choice?
I actually don't know about the whole scope thing. I've got one scoped rifle in my collection, and that was just came from the factory that way. So I really don't know what would it take to scope a Mosin. I mean, I think you're going to have to. Well, actually, no. I believe there's somebody makes a kit where you can actually remove the rear sight block and mount some sort of mounting block for a scope. And I'd probably go on that, just so you're not drilling into your gun and you can put everything back together.
Right.
Just make sure that you've got it so that you can load it easily. I mean, you're not going to be able to use the stripper clips, but I don't know, Mosin stripper clips aren't great. Yeah, as far as triggers go, actually the Timney, I think it is, makes one for the Mosin. I mean, it's going to cost more than your gun, but evidently it's a really, really nice trigger, and it's got a thumb safety on it so that you can actually have like a thumb safety instead of the goofy Mosin trigger. So that's what I would do. And I need to look up this mint julep that you make because it intrigues me and doesn't sound at all like a mint julep.
So the last one we have here before we head into the main topic is from listener Andy, and it's Future Collectibles. Well, thanks a lot, Weird. I have been on the fence about getting a Gen 1 Glock 17 for about a month now. Thanks.
We read this guy last week, dude.
We did?
We did.
Damn it. Well, he's pissed at you because he just spent a bunch of $100 bills on a Glock 17.
Well, guess what? He's going to have like a bunch more of like $1,000 bills.
I'm going to start calling you Aaron because you're the guy who doesn't tell me when I've read something the week before. Thanks a lot, Weird.
I did just tell you when you read it the week before.
You should have told me before.
Well, I don't read the show notes ahead of time. I read them as you're reading them.
All right. So with that scathing rebuke of Weird's performance, we're going to head into the main topic. I need to disassemble my handgun.
You're a jerk.
Okay. So Weird, disassembling your handgun. Don't you hate it?
I really don't like it. Well, actually, no. I love field stripping guns. This is the strangest thing on earth. I love tearing guns down and knowing how to tear different guns down. And that's one of the things of when I get a new gun. That's the big thing is, all right, how does it come apart? All right, let's take it apart. All right, let's put it back together and take it back apart. That's great. When you get to the next step, which is, detail stripping where you're pulling out the small parts and the parts that like need tools and things like that. Oh, I will just start sweating and just get so frustrated and all that. I've never had a problem. I've never broken one. I've never had anything go. I mean, the closest I've got is the the Walker Colt that has caused so much problems, and you never stop giving me trouble about it.
That broke your spirit.
Yeah, it broke my spirit. But I think there's more to that. I mean, I think there's some frame stretching. I think there's some other stuff that's gone on. I mean, the Walker Colt, there's a reason why there's so few of them out there. It was a gun on the ragged edge of safe. But every time I've taken one apart, like I remember the first time I drove out the pin that holds the sear and disconnector on my 1911 out, and the sear and disconnector just dumped out the magazine well onto the bench. Just blang, blang, blang. There's these little tiny metal pieces. Oh my God, what was that?
And yeah, and that's an important thing to make clear. We're not talking today about like just taking your gun apart using the takedown lever and stuff. I'm talking about driving pins out. I'm talking about taking screws out. I'm talking about completely detail stripping everything. Yeah. Like, what are some important things to consider when you do such a thing? Because we've talked about handgun cleaning and all that stuff before, but we haven't really gotten into the detail stripping type of thing.
Yeah, but I don't like it. But again, if you're because I don't like it, I'm super slow. I'm super careful. I'm super cautious. And so it's always worked out for me.
So the first thing we have here on the list is exploded diagrams. So before you start punching pins out of your firearm and doing all these different things, you need to know what every part does and where it is and where it should go, because you're going to be in a hell of a mess if you just punch all the pins out and dump them into a bowl and have no idea what goes where when you go to reassemble it. You're going to be the person that shows up to the gunsmith with a bag of gun.
Yeah, a gun in a shoebox. Can you make this back into a gun for me?
Yeah, exactly. Exploded diagrams. I believe Brownell sells them for pretty much any firearm there is out there.
You can also find them on Google image searches, but be careful because your AK-47 might be an STG-44.
I mean, I just typed in exploded firearms drawing. There's a bunch of books for your big ones like the Peacemaker and the 1911, the NAA mini revolver, a few others. I mean, they're showing up.
Numrich has a ton of them too. Just on the website. They've got it just so you can look and go, all right, what is the name of this little fiddly part that broke or I lost?
Right.
But at the same time, it's also good for, all right, how the heck do I get this back together?
So those are very important. Make sure you don't start the process without knowing what you're doing, because that's where you're going to run into trouble. Number 2, screwdrivers. Do not disassemble your gun with a crappy screwdriver set. Have the proper tips, have the proper size. Use caution when going into the slots. Don't bugger up the screws. The biggest, like the number one indication of a amateur gunsmithing job is buggered up screw heads on the outside of a gun, to me. Yeah. First thing I look for if I'm buying a used gun.
Yep. No, you got to get the good the good screwdrivers. That way you can, pull.
What do you have a special set that you use? Weird. I have a Packmeyer gunsmithing screwdriver set.
I don't know who I've got one of the ones that's got a multi-tip set on it, and it's worked pretty well.
Now, do you have a vise?
I do not have a vise, and there's been a lot of times where I really wish I had a vise.
I have a vise. It's actually at my grandfather's house, but I've used it before, but it has actually wooden jaws. It's not steel.
That's nice. I mean, you can get a steel jaw one, just have a couple of pieces of scrap wood to put in there.
Right.
because you don't want to put metal on metal, because that's going to be bad.
But yeah, so that really has come in useful. I'm actually going to look into moving that over to my current place so I can use that. But that's really important. If you get a metal vise, try to get, like you said, some pieces of wood or maybe some pieces of really thick leather that you can use to cover the jaws so you won't mar any firearms up or anything like that. And also be cautious not to crank the vise down too hard. You just got to hold it in place. Don't crank it down so much that you bend the frame or anything.
Yeah, because you can fold that slide in on itself, or fold the frame.
And you could do it imperceptibly as well. You wouldn't even know that something was wrong until you go to run it and the gun doesn't function. And it's because the slide's too tight because you bent it. Parts management, weird. Do you have any horror stories about parts management?
I have definitely had like a few little pieces that have gone flying off. And actually, my best story is those pieces always tend to make themselves known after I've ordered a piece from Numrich to replace them.
Oh yeah, you get it, and then that same day you happen to find it.
Yeah, but yeah. So yeah, one of my favorite things to do is get yourself a big old shoe box. Specifically, like, you know, my dad's got wears size 12 shoes. That's a nice shoebox size for most handguns things. Take a shoebox and put your gun into the shoebox and disassemble it in there. That way you can even put the lid on partially. So therefore, if a spring wants to go flying or a little piece wants to jump out or drop out, it's more or less going to stay in the shoebox.
You do the same thing like a plastic bag. That's what I use.
Get a big old like Ziploc bag or plastic bag, because then it's clear, and just take it apart in there. That way it doesn't have any room to get away.
The other thing, one other trick, I don't know if it's really a trick, but one time when I was disassembling my Smith & Wessons, I took and just kind of sketched out on a piece of paper, on a paper plate, the side plate of a Smith & Wesson, and I punched holes in it with a pen where the screws would go. And as I took the screws out of the gun, I put them in the corresponding holes on my little sketch.
That's a really good idea.
I knew what screw went where.
Man, that's a really good idea.
So that was helpful. I mean, it didn't have to be a detailed sketch, just kind of to tell you where it goes. But, some screws, not when you have a gun and they have different screws, they don't use the same length screw in every position. So it's important to kind of keep those aligned where they need to go. So if you have like some sort of, sketch out your pistol on there and put where you punched the pins out or whatever, and put them in the holes of the plate, and there you go.
Yeah, because nothing worse than seeing 3 pins laying next to each other on the tray, and they're all close but a little bit different, and then you're like, oh, which one went where?
Right, exactly. So that's really important. But that's one little trick that I was thinking of.
Another thing to parts management is just take your time. Like, look at things. Like, try to see, like, if you're all right. I mean, again, you said, have a plan with your exploded diagram and all that, so that you know what you're doing and what's going to happen once you drive out this pin or undo this screw. And spend some time looking at the parts and seeing, all right, which piece is up? Oh, this thing's got a little hooky thing, or there's a little radius surface here, and the radius is facing forward, or the radius is facing backwards, or the hooks are up or the hooks are down.
The other thing that I found was, like, and it goes along with what you're saying, is, okay, so the first time I ever broke apart a Smith & Wesson, punched the side plate off, pulled the side plate, took a picture of it with my phone completely assembled. And I kept that picture. And then as I took the parts out, I took a picture, took the parts out, took a picture. So that way I can go back and look and see, okay, so that part goes there in this orientation, that part goes there. And, don't just open up the side plate and just dump all the internals out and then, okay, let's figure it out afterwards, because you're going to have a hell of a time.
Yep. But yeah, just go slow. That's maybe, if you're the type of person where you're, building an AR every weekend, or doing a custom 1911 or doing trigger jobs on M&Ps, what have you. Maybe then you'll get so old hat that you can take one apart in your sleep. But until you're at that point, yeah, just go slow.
Snarky Posters says there are magnetic rubber vice jaw pads available.
Ooh. I wonder if the magnet would give you a problem.
The other thing I was going to mention, I saw at Walmart today that in the tool section, they had these small little metal bowls that were magnetic to hold like screws and parts and stuff.
That's
like $2 or $3. I was like, that's not really that bad.
Where is it? Just the whole thing magnetized, or?
Yeah, it was just like a stainless steel bowl.
Huh. Yeah, that could be useful.
But
I mean, it's still not going to help if like a spring's going to try to fly straight up and away. But I could definitely see that getting you out of some trouble.
So then we have cleaning mats. I mean, the best ones are from Patriot Patch Company, obviously, with the AR-15 and the AK-47. But cleaning mats.
1911 one yet?
I'm pretty sure they were working on one. Talk about cleaning mats. Weird. Let me go look.
Oh, they are big padded mats. I mean, first up there, it's nice to have a cleaning mat. I went cheap and just grabbed a bunch of old bath towels and just covered my bench with them. I like having a mat because you're not going to mar your gun. You're not going to be banging around or dropping it. Number two, it kind of controls the amount of stuff that people will roll. If you're doing it on like a dining room table or something like that, somebody could roll right off the edge of it onto your carpet, and it's, you're going to have to be hunting. It also, of course, protects from oils and solvents and that sort of stuff if you don't have a dedicated cleaning area like Ryan and I do, where you're going to do it on the dining room table or on the coffee table watching TV. That was how I got my start. I got my start cleaning on the coffee table.
I got my start cleaning on the dining room table and pissing my wife off.
Yeah. My wife came in once and I was cleaning my stainless steel 1911 in the sink. And she said I couldn't do that anymore. So I started doing it when she was at work.
My wife said the same thing when I took really hot water and dropped the black powder revolver in there because someone said just like soap, really soapy hot water would be the best way to clean it. I said, won't it rust? They said, not if it's hot enough. The steel will get so hot the water will evaporate right off.
Yep.
And it works.
Just don't let mama catch you.
I found the cleaning mat there. Check that link out.
Oh, let me see I'm not on the show notes.
It's a Patriot Patch. Very, very nice job, as always.
Oh, look at that. That is nice. See, isn't that useful?
So that really is. That's awesome. There's a link in the show notes. We will leave that there. But the punch kit. Now, this is one thing I'm kind of ashamed to admit I don't have. I've never really had a need for one far.
It's like the Vice. You can get away with it. Though, to be fair, what do you do when you have to drive a pin out?
I've never had to drive a pin out.
Oh, you never had to drive a pin out?
Never had any issues where I had to.
Yeah. Geez, I've got lots of guns where I've just got to drive. I mean, for my Mossberg 590, you can't take the bolt out without driving out 2 pins.
Well, not all of us buy guns where we need a pin to disassemble it.
Yeah, well, but I mean, if you're going to drop a new trigger into either your Glock or your M&P.
Yeah, I mean, I will have to get one. At this point, like I basically buy a gun and I just use it stock. I haven't modified any of my firearms, and I've never really run into an issue where I've needed to drive a pin out up to this point. But
in a pinch, you can use one of those little micro screwdriver kits. I don't recommend that because you will slip and screw up your finish.
Yeah.
But yeah, having like a good, I like the brass ones because you're not going to get any trouble. You're gonna damage them. They're not going to last forever because they're made of brass, but they're really useful. Also for stuff like, I'm trying to think if there's a pistol out there with that. I know specifically, like if you have like an AK that's fairly new, the little lever that you lift up to release um, uh, to release the gas tube on them. That thing, or the piston housing, that thing can get really stiff. Taking the biggest fattest punch in the kit and holding it against your finger and pushing up on the brass punch up against that little stamped piece of metal is way easier on your finger than trying to just push it up on your own. There might be other things that might be like a stubborn button or something like that just needs to really get pushed on. Push on the smooth piece of brass than the knurled piece of steel.
Yeah, I mean, had I kept my Colt 1903, I definitely would have needed a punch kit. Oh, yeah. I had to replace a few parts on there to get everything on that gun was held in by a pin.
But you did the right thing and sold it broken.
So, but I told the person though. Proper hammers. Now, this is another thing. I have, when we talk hammers, we're talking actual, like, banging in nails hammers. Hammer, you have your big standard household hammer, then you have your small brass hammer, you have your small nylon hammer, you have rubber mallets. Every one serves a purpose. Don't use a steel household hammer on your sights if you're trying to push them over without a sight pushing tool.
By the way, speaking of something we need to add, we haven't added just yet, is sight pushing tool.
Yeah, sight push. Oh God, yeah, $150.
What's that?
Or whatever it costs. Isn't there a couple companies like SIG? The sight pushing tool's almost like $200.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've seen some expensive ones, and I walked right past those and bought the cheap one, and it works beautiful.
Well, didn't you buy one to fix your neighbor's M&P?
Yes, I did. Yeah, to take out the rear sight block on it. That sucker took an act of God to move. I actually ended up destroying one of my punches.
Okay, recap the whole story for us with that one, because it's for people who just started listening to the show, they may not know.
Yeah. So yeah, you need to pull out. Oh, it's the striker stop. It's the little drop safety widget. You need to replace that to put in an apex trigger into it. And to get that, it's in a little hole underneath the rear sight. So the sights have a little set screw on them. So put an Allen wrench in there, unscrew the set screw, and then put a punch on the side of the sight and start whacking it with a hammer. And I turned my sight, my punch into a mushroom. And I'm like, what is going on here? And so finally I just went, man, that sight is on there tight. So I went on Amazon, found a inexpensive sight pusher that was universal for any gun that's got essentially a square cut slide, which is most of them, and said, well, it was I think like $50. But there were definitely the sight pusher for this specific gun. Like there was a Glock one that seemed to be a lot more expensive. I think I did see the SIG one, and I'm just like, yeah, no, I don't need those ones. And then, put that on and just put a wrench on it, and pop, out it came. No big deal.
So that's incredible that you were able to do that without the specific manufacturer's one.
I mean, all it is just two blocks with some non-marring material on them, and then and a big screw that moves just a metal blade, a big fat steel blade, and you just push that blade up against the sight and just turn it. It's just going to push it out of the way.
So what about Armorer's block? I have never used one of these, only because I've never really done anything with my AR-15, because I haven't actually really cleaned it since I bought it.
I haven't either, because I'm the type of guy who I take the gun apart once and do all the work that it needs to be done on it, and then I put it back together and go, oh, good, I'm never going to have to take this gun apart ever again.
Right.
So I haven't found an Armorer's block to be cost effective. I've watched people do work on guns with armor as blocks, and oh my God, do they make life so much easier. They just hold parts all in the right place. When you drift out the and you
drift the
just
pins
drop
out.
it into the nice little spots. It keeps everything just nice the way you need it to go. And you've got just the right angle and elevation. And yeah, except for the downside to it is, like, I love universal tools. You show me a tool that is more or less universal, I'm going to be very interested in buying it because I can use it more often. But when you have just 1911 armorer's block, how many 1911s am I going to be detail stripping? How many 1911s?
I'm gonna start calling you Alton Brown. You hate unitaskers.
I do hate unitaskers, and I love Alton Brown, and Alton Brown loves guns.
Yes, he does.
He has he
has a bitchin' Browning high power.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen his high power.
He posted a picture on his Twitter one time. But yes, so he hates unitaskers, so he would love this.
Yep, he described all clad pans as the Smith & Wesson of cookware.
Oh man. So yeah, no, I mean, I've seen armorer's blocks for 1911s Glocks. I'm sure they make one for M&Ps and XDs as well. I mean,
they certainly make it. They make them for everything.
Just a simple piece of like molded plastic.
It's a little injection molded piece of plastic with lots of fun little holes and stuff in it.
But if you're someone who is driving pins out frequently and doing different stuff to your gun, they may be very, very useful to you. We're not trying to down them. Like,
no. If you're a competition guy and you're always doing this or that with your competition gun, or you've got a few different competition guns, or you're the type of guy that's, that's my thing is I buy 80% lowers and I just spend my time building Glocks, because it also works for if you've got a, stripped lower receiver and you're going to be putting it back together for the first time. Yeah, you also need those. Like, if you're someone that's going to be doing a bunch of work to one type of gun, this is great. Or if you're going to be a little bit of an armorer, you're going to be the guy that's going to be putting Apex triggers in all the neighborhood M&Ps, whatever, then those are great. But if you're someone like Ryan and I, where you own one gun of this, one gun of that, one gun of this, and ever so often you might do this modification work, or this gun might break, it's kind of hard to consider it cost effective. You're just going to end up having a bunch of blocks taking up a bunch of space in your armory.
So the last thing here before we wrap up is YouTube. I have learned more from YouTube than any other thing.
Me being older than you, I have had to deal with stuff like my first time I got my 1911. I didn't realize when I got it all the way. I took it apart, just field strip, not detail strip. Took it all the way apart and then put it all the way back together up until I was putting the slide stop back in.
Did the instruction manual come with your gun? I mean,
yes, but the thing it wasn't clear about to put the slide stop back into a 1911 is you put it in slightly below where it goes in, and then slide it up in. I mean, that's where you get the idiot scratch, is from someone doing an exaggerated motion where they drag it across the frame and make a little radius. But yeah, just did not know how to do it. Finally did what we talked about before, taking it slow, sat there and actually looked at the piece and saw that little radius side on the slide stop and went, oh, that's how it goes. It must go in an angle.
And so I have the similar problems every time I try to reassemble my car. Like, it's just a pain sometimes.
Oh, what, getting the
slide stop in?
Yeah. What doesn't it have doesn't it have the two little lines you line up?
Yeah, but you have to get it just so, and you have to make sure it goes in the spring right and all that other stuff, or it won't, or it will spring up and lock the slide after every shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, YouTube is great for just again, seeing someone do it. That's how I did the Apex trigger install. Is I watched the Apex video and went, yeah, and then found some other dude who just was really, really geeky and got really in there and showed every last little part that you had to move around, and went, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, there is a lot of knowledge on YouTube. Be sure to check it all out. But try to parse through some of the BS, because don't just take for granted the first video you watch. Watch 3 or 4 videos.
Exactly.
If they all show, it going the same way, then you can probably be pretty sure that's the way to do it.
Or if you see one and the guy's just playing grab ass with his black powder revolver, you go, you know what? I don't think I necessarily want to take advice from this guy.
Yeah, especially if his name is Ryan Machad and he only put the screws in a bag and didn't make a diagram like he should have.
Yes. Yeah, screw that guy.
so with that, we'll head into the wrap-up section and close out the show. Don't forget to shop Brownells using our affiliate link. Head to firearmsradio.tv. Click the affiliate link in the upper right-hand corner. Be sure to go like Handgun Radio on Facebook and share it with your friends. Leave us a review on iTunes and listen to all the great shows on the Firearms Radio Network. Be sure to visit the Firearms Insider for reviews and more awesome content. And be sure to check out the Firearms Radio Network on YouTube. And Weird, where can people find you?
You can find me on my blog, which is weirdworld.com. You can find me on the Score Report. Find me on Gun Blog Variety Cast. And at some point real soon, I'm going to be on Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns. We just recorded an episode, and that was a whole lot of fun.
Excellent. So there are links there in the show notes. And thank you so much for coming on the show, as always.
It's always fun to be on this show.
And until next week, have fun and safe shooting.